7:23 coming around to 7:24 in Trinidad and Tobago. Well, Prime Minister Dr. Keith Rowley has represented the constituency of Diego Martin West since 1991 for the People's National Movement. Well, the opposition, UNC, the United National Congress, is eyeing the PNM stronghold and hopes that their candidate, Marsha Walker, can bring home the win. She joins us now to talk about her plans if successful at the polls. But first and foremost, she has to tell us about her chances about being successful against the incumbent, who happens to be the Prime Minister, who happens to be the leader of the People's National Movement. She joins us now via Zoom. Very good morning to you, Ms. Walker. Thanks for joining us.
Hi, good morning.
Good to have you with us. Good to have you with us this morning. Before we even talk about plans and projections and what you hope to deliver for the people of Diego Martin West, I mean, you really feel you have a chance against the Prime Minister?
I absolutely do think so, yes.
Tell us why. Because I mean, incumbency is seen as an advantage, even with all of the challenges that is being faced by the country right now under a PNM administration. Keith Rowley has been associated with Diego Martin West since 1991. You are a relatively young candidate. Why do you think you can attract voters under the banner of the UNC that could unseat Keith Rowley?
Well, first of all, I mean, throughout the walks from the get-go, people are absolutely disenchanted. The thing is, it actually is working against him that he is the Prime Minister, because we've been voting for him for the last 29 years. When you vote for someone and you believe that, okay, they're going to be the Prime Minister, there's an expectation that a certain amount of resources are going to come your way. You know, your Prime Minister is the MP for the area. And then there's a huge letdown. There's a disappointment because we've waited all this time. You've risen to political leader. You've become the Prime Minister, and we've seen nothing. That's a huge letdown. It's like, we no longer can trust you, and we're totally disenchanted. So that actually works in my favor, because we've had you for 5 years in a position where you have the most resources in Trinidad and Tobago, and we've seen nothing. Something as simple as the first, conversations with the Prime Minister that he held all over the country, and none came to Diego Martin West. It feels like a real betrayal, because you are the Prime Minister, but first of all, you're the MP. We've put you there. Without us, you could not become the Prime Minister. And there is no thank you. There is no special place in our heart, in your heart, for us. And that's a real betrayal of trust. Now, so that's one, right? The second thing is, if you look from 1990 all the way, the last 29 years, Diego Martin West, when you study the figures, he's never had over 50% of the registered voters in Trinidad. So he's never had the majority. What you find in Diego Martin West are a lot of swing voters, believe it or not. So that opportunity to go to a new party or a new face is there. And we need to get those out. We need to get that 54% out to come out and vote. And those are the ones that feel, does it matter because, same khaki pants, what do you bring to the table? And so a fresh face is actually what Diego Martin West wants. In 2010, Rocky Garcia came very, very close to beating him. I mean, under 1,000 votes. Again, because the people of Diego Martin West have been sending a signal for a long time that they want change. They want fresh. So I actually think that my fresh face is going to be a benefit, because that's what they want. They don't want the same politicians with the same ideas, the same non-performance. You get my vote, we see you only for election times, and then where do you go? So I do actually think that the statistics are there, and I think the heart and the frustration is definitely there. The people want change. It is very, very clear. They're absolutely disenchanted. They're absolutely fed up. They've given it 29 years. You have all the resources at your disposal, and nothing has been seen.
But you seem to be describing the UNC based on what you're saying because of the critics of the UNC and why the UNC under the People's Partnership would have been voted out in 2015. But before we get to that perspective, and I'm sure
well, the People's Partnership wasn't in charge of Diego Martin West.
I know.
I urge voters to concentrate on the constituency. At the end of the day, who had the corporation?
But do you think, if you would allow me to ask this, do you think that people could separate the issue of what they assume as the governance of the UNC nationwide and look only at Diego Martin West? Do you think your constituents...
Well, if we want change, the change has to be given to us, even with voters. And that, of course, is one of the big things in my campaign. We have to start with us. You know, even the way that we vote. We have to become a population that votes on facts, not on all the drama, on all the media headlines. Let's read the articles, let's read the facts, let's read the reports. Let's get to know the individual. First to begin, something that really drew me to the UNC was the fact that Mrs. Prasad-Bissessar said she was sorry. So of course you have a huge change in the type of leadership between one political leader and the other. She admitted that the People's Partnership had their downfalls. And that's why she was very, very staunch about we're going this way as a united national Congress. It was People's Partnership. It wasn't the United National Congress in 2010. So one, we have to see that there is a change. She has made changes. And I think that a lot has to be said when a leader could take a step back and rather than come arrogantly and say, well, the problem isn't us, the problem is everybody else. She took a step back and she said, right, one, from the get-go, from 2015, I remember her looking for new ideas, new faces. We must be a change. There must be change going forward. And that was her rhetoric straight through. There must be change going forward. If you look at the lineup of candidates that she's brought forward, a lot of new faces because she wanted change. What worked in 2015, what did not work in 2010 must be addressed. And she said it several times on the podium. It did not work. There are things that needed to improve. And she took a step back and she improved. So that's one. That's if you look at it on a macro level, on a UNC party level. Secondly, I always say, if we look at the individual, sit and pay attention. Now, of course, if you have vested interest in education, etc., then you ought to go and try to find out who would be their Minister of Education, what are their education policies, etc. But generally, each Burgess needs to go to themselves. Each citizen must go and say, okay, I live in Diego Martin West. Who is the candidate for Diego Martin West? When was the last time in 29 years did that MP raise a question in Parliament on behalf of the people of Diego Martin West? Will this person represent the interests of Diego Martin West? If we can do that, then what we will see is each community, and that's how we're going to build Trinidad. A lot of times we try to focus on big and somehow hope that small is going to work, and that's never the case. You want to fix something in anything in life, and you pay attention to the details. You fix the little individual, the micro, and then you will see bit by bit, the overflow will happen. And that's what we're encouraging. Pay attention to your candidate, pay attention to your community. If we fix each community, if we improve each single community, then we'll wake up one morning and realize, wait, Trinidad and Tobago is the island paradise that it absolutely can be. And that's what we're encouraging. If we want change, then we as citizens must be prepared as well to do change in our mindset as well, and not just look at, okay, Yellow, Mrs. Kamala Prasad-Bissessar. And yes, those are things that we must look at. But apart from that, Diego Martin West must look at Keith Rowley versus Marsha Walker. What does Marsha Walker bring to the table?
Okay.
What hasn't Keith Rowley brought to the table?
Right. Well, let me ask that question, because since you announced about a month ago, here's an opportunity once again, and I know you've been highlighted quite a bit in the media as well. Who is Marsha Walker? What are your credentials to represent the people of Diego Martin West? Are you a disenfranchised PNM? You couldn't get a nomination, so now you jump to the yellow?
Oh, absolutely. It was quite the opposite. I guess because I've been a parenting advocate for a while. A single mom for just about 8 years. I was a single mom. And a lot of people, if you were to follow me, you would have seen that I needed to earn an income from home, because as single moms, that's a challenge. When we leave our homes, who's raising our kids? And so there's a real challenge. The system does not support it. And that was what I needed. And that's that understanding of this. These are real challenges that citizens face. I'm not one to complain without going to look for solutions. And of course, if the solutions are there, I'm going to offer myself first and foremost before anyone else. I'm not one to complain without jumping in and helping to fix. And so that's what happened. Of course, actually, I know quite a few PNM members. They're great persons, but I did not find that the PNM offered, and that's, not for me. I've never been interested in their manifestos. I've never actually thought that they had a vision. That's from even being an economics student, going to school at A levels and looking at it as part of projects and stuff. I could not find myself to think that they were a government or an administration or a party that really understood how to manage the economy. So from the get-go, it was not necessarily a party that I believed in economically. When I saw what happened with the MP for Diego Martin Central in the last elections, and he could not win his vote. And if we remember, there was a split between the Manning faction and the Rowley faction, and he was a performing MP. He was absolutely a performing MP, and the people loved him. Just like what's happening now to LaHunt, right? The people come and say, this is who we want, but they somehow choose who they want. It doesn't matter what the people want. They choose who they want, full stop. And that kind of attitude really is a turnoff to me. And I hope people open their eyes. And if you cannot even get the candidate that you want, how can you possibly trust them to get the representation that you want? How can you trust them to have a voice for you? Whereas with the United National Congress, it was simple. Any single person could come and collect a form, a nomination form. You put your form forward and you get interviewed like anybody else. I don't have a fancy financer, last name. There is nothing about me that will give me the who's who. What I could offer is me, my generation. I don't have parents to bolster who I am, and that was something that was a big attraction. It was an open door policy. You want to work hard, you want to bring your ideas, then we will hear you. Doesn't matter who your father is, who your mother is, we will hear you, the individual. And that, of course, to me is a huge difference between one party and the next.
And Ms. Walker, before time runs on us, we have a couple of, what do you see as the fundamental issues that could sway this election? What do you see the issues that you're championing for your constituent beyond the national issues?
Okay, well, so there is a huge national issue that I am, bringing to the people of Diego Martin West. We need to remember that Dr. Rowley has to win Diego Martin West to be the prime minister. That's the bottom line. And far too much. It is scary how much he resembles the Maduro regime. 10 years ago, US Senator Bernie Sanders said that Venezuela was living the American dream better than Americans themselves. That's 10 years. And that represents 2 terms of a Rowley-led government. And we've got to be careful. Venezuelans sat in the comfort of their own home, never thinking for 1 minute that their children were going to be fleeing their country on boats, that their children would be digging in garbage. And that's something that Trinidadians need to really wake up to and look at the history of Venezuela. Look at the history, just compare, do the year-by-year comparisons and see how scary, how terrifyingly they match. They really mirror each other.
Isn't that scaremongering? That sounds like scaremongering, Ms. Walker.
We need to come out, Diego Martin West. I say all the time, the future of Trinidad's democracy lies squarely on our shoulder, because at the end of the day, he has to become an MP before he can become a prime minister. And the people of Diego Martin West need to come out and ensure that this country's democracy remains intact.
So just before we conclude, you are suggesting that the Keith Rowley administration and the gentleman who is now the incumbent in the constituency you're going up for, that he is threatening the democracy of Trinidad and Tobago?
I want to be very careful because, of course, we know the personality, right? And I'm trying to not reach in jail or any kind of drama before the election day. All I'm suggesting is look at his attitude towards the media, towards free speech, towards any citizen that speaks out and questions. We have forgotten that prime ministers, that ministers, MPs are servants. We are here to serve the people. And it is our job as citizens, it is our right as citizens to question. I must be able to look at our accounts and say, hey, where did our money go and how was it spent? Why did you choose this versus that? And you should, with an open mind and an open heart, answer my question. That is the attitude that we are looking for from our leaders, from our humble servants.
Marsha,
and
Walker.
That attitude has not been forthcoming. In fact, as I said, I find it's a little bit, I'm not pleased. The attitude towards media, the attitude towards any citizen that comes to ask for transparency, to ask for accountability, it's treason, it's unpatriotic, and those kinds of conversations are cause for concern.
Marsha Walker, we have to leave it there for the moment. Thanks very much for taking the time to speak with us
Thank you very much
this
for
morning.
having me.
And indeed, the going up for the seat that is now held by the man who is Prime Minister of Trinidad and Tobago and the leader of the PNM, Keith Rowley. And indeed, we await the announcement of the election date. Should be coming up anytime soon. But in the meantime, the parties are putting their candidates in place. 7:13.